Welcome to Your Business, Your Life with Matt DiFrancesco, your personal financial quarterback. Whether you've had years of success in your business or are just starting out, DiFrancesco Virtual Family Office can help you create a vision for your business, life, and family and guide you toward the fulfillment of that goal. As they say, you can't choose your family, but you can choose your virtual family office. Now, on to the show.
Hello and welcome to Your Business, Your Life with Matt DiFrancesco. Today we're going to be talking about lessons from a virtual office, and this is actually part 2. And Matt, what did we talk about in part 1?
Well, in part 1, we basically been reviewing with COVID how many businesses were forced to adapt and continue to conduct business, and many of the businesses were forced to operate under what we call this new normal, where they had to learn and adapt new processes and systems. And I've been working virtually for 6.5 years, so I've been wanting to share the 3 lessons that I've learned and put into practice to help me to conduct a virtual business. So we talked about the first benefit back in episode 10 about reducing your overhead. So today I want to talk about the second benefit.
All right, what's the second one?
Well, first off, what I wanted to do, and just to kind of look at the overall strategy as far as why I was looking to create a virtual office. The first one was I really wanted to create a practice that would allow me to best help my clients to achieve their ultimate business in life. And again, because I work with family businesses, and usually the businesses, they're more on, I don't want to necessarily call them smaller businesses, but they're not like your ultra high net worth, like like your Walmarts or those type of businesses, Coors. They're smaller family businesses who can't afford to hire the traditional family office. So again, by going virtual, I was able to reduce the cost and make it affordable for them and be able to give them the same services that these large family offices were able to provide. And the third thing was it gives me the freedom and flexibility to do things I want while still being able to serve my clients. So in episode 10, we talked about the first benefit was to reduce overhead. And so in the second benefit, I want to talk about how you can give yourself more flexibility with a virtual office.
All right, sounds good.
So anyway, there's really basically 2 things that I saw, the flexibility that really opens up the opportunities that you have in your business. And the first one is with virtual business meetings. Now, the challenges with meetings a lot of times is they consume a tremendous amount of time in preparation and probably more so in gathering participants. I'm on a board, a foundation board, and we basically cover the Diocese of Altoona, Johnstown that I live in, which is about a 10-county area. And that's a large area. So we have trustees from all over these different counties. And so when we come together, we come to a central location, but, like for me, it's about an hour drive. For everybody, it's about an hour drive to get there. We have that time. Of course, you have chit-chat, everything that's going on. Then you finally have the meeting. Then it gets to be lunchtime. Everybody wants to have lunch. And so it can really consume a ton of our time. And as we know, time is money. And in many cases, travel constraints may inhibit some people from attending. So I know in my case, if I have business over in the area where we usually have these meetings, I would have to try to arrange business around there so I could get the best use of my time. But if that couldn't happen, I ended up spending 2 hours travel time, hour and a half of a meeting, lunch, my day's shot.
Yeah.
So by conducting virtual meetings, we can basically eliminate a lot of that travel. People can meet in the convenience from their home. Your preparation time is just spent doing that, and you're not spending time with a lot of the travel that's involved.
And that also doesn't take into account what ifs, right? I mean, the traffic. You got traffic. You've got, I hate to say it, but truly flat tires. Any kind of mechanical problem with your car, anything that's going on at the meeting that may necessitate it to run long. There's all sorts of different things that really plays into it. And if you're an hour away, depending on when you're leaving during the day or when you're coming home during the day, you could be hitting just normal traffic, not just something that happens, an accident or something, but we're talking normal traffic in a city. That's tough. That's tough to try to work around, tough to try to schedule for everybody. And it's kind of a pain. I'm a homebody by nature anyway, but still, I love going out and seeing people, but the time you're talking about, it really can be prohibitive.
That's exactly right. And I think what people don't realize, especially in working with family businesses, my prime times to be able to talk to clients are usually in the morning and in the evening, because during the day they're busy with their business. Again, in the morning, who always wants to schedule a breakfast meeting when that could take an hour and a half to 2 hours once you get through not just the meeting mechanics, but chit chat beforehand, getting food, whatever may happen during that, or in the evening when you're tired and you want to be at home. And what I've noticed is with the virtual meeting is that we can do it a lot more time efficiently. A meeting that would maybe normally take in person an hour and a half can take only 45 minutes. It can be at a time that's convenient for everybody. And again, we can do it from the comforts of our own home. I do want to stress that FaceTime is important.
Absolutely.
And I'm not saying that I don't ever do in-person meetings. Usually what I try to do is my meeting process is broken up into 3 reviews throughout the year. One of those reviews is usually I want to try to do in person if possible, because again, I think it's important to have that FaceTime. But for any little meetings that need to happen in the meantime, those can all be done virtually, and I just find it to be a lot more efficient.
Yeah, and here's the thing is that when you have meetings where you have a lot of, I'll just say meat, when you have a lot of meat to cover, a lot of information to cover, those virtual meetings are great because you have a lot of stuff to cover, so you're compacting that time into one session where you can eliminate all the travel time. Where if you have a lighter meeting, maybe it's a review that's just kind of a checking in thing, man, that's a great one to go out to lunch. There is huge benefits to breaking bread with people, right? I mean, like you said,
exactly.
It's huge benefits to meeting face to face, but why not make it one of the smaller meetings or a lighter meeting? I'm using air quotes on a podcast, a lighter meeting, so that you guys can just sit there and eat lunch and talk or talk over a cup of coffee. And that's going to be a shorter meeting. And so even with the travel time, you're still saving a bunch of time.
That's exactly right. And I think, the more effectively we can utilize our time, the more effective we can be, at least I know for my clients.
Yeah.
And I can help them to implement the solutions in a much more effective and efficient way.
Perfect.
So the other thing is, and we talked about in the first lesson, in the first benefit about reducing overhead, I talked about this idea of creating virtual assistants. And the other thing that we can do with virtual meetings is have those meetings with our operations staff, with our marketing staff, any of those that we're hiring virtually. Now, I've been doing this for the last 6.5 years, and it's really worked well because I have my operations staff is actually in Anchorage, Alaska. Okay, part of my marketing staff is here in town, but they're busy doing other things. So by working virtually, doing virtual meetings, we can make sure that we're always staying connected. And I mean, we can do this on a daily basis, whether if you have the sort of staff that you need to meet on a daily basis, even if it's only for 20 minutes, that could work much more effectively than trying to pull everybody together. So I think really it's not only just with clients, but also with our staff and especially as people start working remotely more, it's going to be real important to apply that virtual meeting to that day-to-day operations to make sure we keep the communication lines open.
Yeah, absolutely.
So anyway, the benefits of all this, again, as we talked about, it allows the participants to meet off-site or at home. It's going to save time and money for both the participants and the business. And we can eliminate a lot of the idle chit-chat that comes in. Like you said, on the bigger meetings, we could do a smaller meeting where we do meet in person and have that chit-chat, because that's where a lot of the rapport is built. And I'm not minimizing that. I think that's something that's very, very important. I'm a people person, too. So I get energized by being around people, but I've just also found that we need to value our time too. So that's where I think the virtual meeting is real important.
Well, and I want to touch back on kind of something you covered in the first podcast as far as a benefit. When you're talking about these relationships, it's vitally important for you as a virtual business owner, somebody who's working virtually for most of your business, to have strong relationships. Because when you're saving people money, it's because you don't have a storefront, right? You're not paying $2,000 or $3,000 a month renting a space in a strip mall in a a small office location or whatever, because you're utilizing those savings to pass on to your clients. And so it's vitally important that you or anybody who starts a virtual business have strong relationships, because you don't have people walking in off the street or driving by your signage, driving by your building, seeing you there and operating and coming in to see what you're all about. You need to grow your business by relationships, whether it's referrals, whether it's just word of mouth, whatever it is. You don't have that storefront. So I think that's anybody considering a virtual office needs to understand that relationship building is one of the key components. Even though you may be working virtually, those relationships still are going to be as strong, if not stronger.
Exactly. And that's even a lot of the purpose of this podcast and a lot of the social media that I do, is to give them a presence so they can get to learn to know me. Mm-hmm. Because again, I think that is very important. And a lot of times, we talk about, going out and getting business, but we have to establish that relationship first, especially in this type of business. Yeah. And so when you're doing it virtually, you've got to look at other, especially in today's environment, like, networking was always a big prospecting tool in the advisory business. Well, you can't go anywhere. You can't network with anybody. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So how do we do that now? So again, that's again the purpose of the podcast, social media posts, my newsletters. All of these things are really just to help you to get to know me.
Yeah. Yep. Perfect.
The second part of the benefit of more flexibility is this idea of virtual operations. Mm-hmm. So, one of the challenges, and this was even a challenge in just traditional business, and when I had to work with paper, was getting this paperwork and signed and contracts implemented. It just takes time. There's a great cost in mailing, or even just trying to arrange a time to get together with the client to be able to get a wet signature. Mm-hmm. I remember when I was transitioning my business from working from the big wirehouse to independent RIA, I had to repaper everybody. And at the time, I didn't have access to any type of electronic signing. And it was a matter of either trying to get together with the clients, finding time to do that, mm-hmm. Sending out paperwork, then have to follow up. Did you get it? Oh, yeah, it's sitting here. I just haven't had a chance to get to it. And it took me about 90 days to bring my business over. Yeah. I just had one of my peers who moved from a large wirehouse to the independent channel, and basically within 2 weeks had all of his business over. Because he was able to use electronic paperwork, electronic signing.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So the other thing is that, again, when we want to share documents, it can be really cumbersome and it can take time. If I need a client's tax return, for a business owner, that could be 65, 70, 80 pages. All right. They would have to go make copies of all that, package it up, send it to me. Then I've got to go review all of that, put it into a file. That becomes just very cumbersome for everybody. It also, that paper file takes up a lot of space, and it can be subject to being compromised through whether it's misplacement, theft, disaster. I can't tell you, I've had clients before that have had either flooding or a fire, mm-hmm. and if they don't have some type of electronic backup of that data, they were SOL.
Oh yeah. Yeah, it's ridiculous. I mean, the working with clients for all these years as I have, I had one lady that she switched over her entire client base, and she accomplished it in 2 weeks, and she got wet signatures. But I'll tell you what, she had blocked off 2 weeks, and she had an assistant. It was almost like she was on an emergency phone. She loved to see her clients, so she drove around, spent 2 weeks driving all day to anywhere that any of her clients would say, yeah, we can meet here, just to get those signatures. And the same client, I remember when we finally went to electronic documents, she was so excited because her office was lined with 4-drawer filing cabinets. And we're talking, she had probably 10 filing cabinets full of documents that she was able to have assistants scan into the system, and then she had to keep a certain portion of them, but they could be kept in a locked storage place instead of her office. And that was a huge step for her because she actually freed up so much square footage of her own office. I mean, that's huge.
Oh, exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, I've utilized a electronic filing storage. The other nice thing about it is I can access it wherever I am. So I've
Exactly.
actually been in a client appointment where a question comes up about a certain, whether it's a tax return, whether it's an estate planning document, whether it's about beneficiaries, and I don't have that hard copy in front of me, but I go right into my filing system and I'm able to access it. Plus, with virtual staff, they can access all the documents at any time. So now when a client calls in, operations handles a lot of that day-to-day, those day-to-day issues because they have access to everything that I have access to.
Yes. Yeah. And how nice is that as a business owner to be able to spend your time actually creating business?
That's exactly right. This is my little disclaimer too. I do back up on a hard drive all of my documents. I had my chiropractor. I went into the office one time and they were freaking out, and I said, "What's going on?" And he said, "My whole computer system crashed, and all my files, I can't access them. They're all on the cloud." And I'm like, "Well, you have a server you're backing it up to, right?" And he's like, "No, I thought the cloud would be enough." And so
Ouch.
I do recommend, whether using a backup server or even just a backup hard drive, depending on the size of the information that you have, to be able to have access to that, if something should happen. But for the most part, I only access everything through the cloud.
Yeah. And seriously, technology has gotten so cheap. I was just at Best Buy, not a plug for Best Buy, but I was at Best Buy when I needed to get a few things, and I bought a terabyte, just crazy, a terabyte, which I know there's even larger ones, but a terabyte hard drive, and it cost me like $40.
Right.
And there's no way I'm going to fill that with documents. There's just no way. It's
exactly
just
right.
amazing. Now, if I'm putting pictures and videos, sure, that's going to fill it up, but we're talking work documents, business documents. If you're filling up a terabyte, you're doing something weird. So
you hit the nail on the head. So it's amazing how cheap or inexpensive, let me say it that way.
Yeah.
How inexpensive a lot of this technology is.
yeah, absolutely.
So there's basically three solutions that I implemented. The first one was electronic document signing, whether that's through DocuSign, which seems to be the most popular out there. Laser App has has applications that can actually tie into your CRM so that when you need to produce documents, you can automatically download all of it. I utilize an account wizard to do that. So that saves time on its own. It's not having to manually complete every form. We could just utilize the information that's in the CRM. There's cloud-based filing storage. So that could be Box, MS File Share. The one I use is DocuPaste, which is SEC approved. But again, there's a number of different services that are out there. And like I said, they're very inexpensive. I mean, you might pay $19, $20 a month for that type of convenience.
Yeah, well, for me personally, I'm using Dropbox. I think it's $100 flat fee per year. And I have 3 terabytes on that. And as you know, I have a lot of audio. I have a lot of video stuff. And I have not even come close to filling it. So, I mean, it's nice to have it there. And I can access it from my phones, my computers, anywhere.
Well, that's the other thing, that you can access it from just about any device. So, again, it frees you up to not have to be locked into whether it's an office or that office space where you have those physical files.
Yeah, absolutely. And I can share my folders, right? So if I want to share a folder with you specifically, I can have a folder just for you, put all my stuff in there, or all of our stuff in there, and you can access it. Even if you don't have Dropbox, you can access it at any time. So that's kind of nice. I know I'm not trying to sell Dropbox on this podcast, but that's just the one I'm familiar with and I use, and it's so convenient. I know Google does the same thing.
Exactly. I utilize Google Drive in some aspects. I use that inter-office. For clients, we utilize Box or Modest Spark. But again, there's secure ways. And the clients, once they start using them, they find it real easy. So every year when they've got to send me their tax returns, about every 3 years, we like to review their estate plan just to see if there's any changes. Those can be easily just uploaded into into Box or Modest Spark, and I just pull them down. I can download them and I can upload them right into my filing system.
Yeah,
so there's no paper moving hands.
Yep, and that's nice because that will fix some of the errors that do happen, like the coffee, the coffee mug that gets dumped over on something. I've done that before.
I have to. I'll be the first to admit that. So.
Yeah.
So again, the benefits, again, we got less space with files that can be accessed anywhere. I mean, I'm going to be on vacation here in 2 weeks, but I can still conduct business because this idea of the virtual office, I have access to all my client files, client records. I'm utilizing technology, whether it's virtual meetings, through Zoom or through my phone system, which is called Ring Central. I could do these virtual meetings. So really, I don't miss a beat. And that'll actually get into my third, which I'll talk about in the third installment of this, and it's actually my favorite, this idea of creating more freedom for yourself. But I think these are some really,
No problem.
But I think, these suggestions can really open up the world to you and allow you, again, to not only just be able to work much more effectively with your clients, but also show you tremendous cost savings.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, and anything else for today?
So in the next part of this series, I want to talk about my favorite benefit, which is more freedom. But what I'm going to recommend is to download my white paper. So if you go to my website, DiFrancesco.com, and right in on the homepage, you'll find free access to my free white paper, the top 5 things to consider for a more prosperous business and a less stressful life, and review that first consideration so you can begin to formulate a vision of what you want your life and business to look like. And I think once you start to do that, you're going to see how these lessons from the virtual office can be applied to you.
Absolutely. I'm looking forward to the next one. We got a couple good stories for that one of business owners that were working with clients very effectively, but at the same time enjoying their time and not missing anything that they didn't want to miss because of being tied to a physical building necessarily. So that'll be fun to talk about for sure.
Oh, definitely. And I think the thing to keep in mind is, especially in my business where you're dealing with people's businesses, with people's families, and with people's money, that stuff happens. And sometimes we can, as advisors, can get trapped in this world of our physical office. But by having a virtual one, it allows us to have the freedom but still be able to serve our clients in the best way possible.
I couldn't agree more. Matt, thank you so much for the content today. This is great.
No problem, Eric. It's a pleasure sharing all of this with you and the audience.
All right. And I'm looking forward to talking to you here in a couple of weeks, and I think you're going to be on vacation when we do.
Yes, we'll be on vacation, but we're going to have a guest here, so we're just going to keep moving forward.
All right. Sounds good, Matt. Thank you so much.
No problem, Eric. It was a pleasure.
All right. And the last thank you, of course, goes to you, the listening audience. Thank you for tuning in and listening to Your Business, Your Life with Matt DiFrancesco. If you have not subscribed to the podcast yet, please click the subscribe now button below. This way, when Matt comes out with a new podcast, it'll show up directly on your listening device. This makes it so much easier to share these podcasts with your friends and family. Again, thank you so much for listening today. For everyone at DiFrancesco Virtual Family Office, this is Eric Johnson reminding you to live your best day every day. And we'll see you next time.
Thank you for listening to the Your Business, Your Life podcast. Click the subscribe button below to be notified when new episodes become available. The information covered and posted represents the views and opinions of the guest and does not necessarily represent the views or opinions of DiFrancesco Virtual Family Office. The content has been made available for informational and educational purposes only. The content is not intended to be a substitute for professional investment, legal, or tax advice. Always seek the advice of your financial advisor or another qualified professional with any questions you may have regarding your business or personal planning. DiFrancesco Financial Concierge, LLC, doing business as DiFrancesco Virtual Family Office, is a registered investment advisor. Registration with the United States Securities and Exchange Commission or any state securities authority does not imply a certain level of skill or training.